Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Worship and Word Conversations, our Sabbath afternoon, our Saturday afternoon time where we just kind of kick off our shoes. The dinner is nice and settled, and we just start to talk about relevant topics to our lives. So here's what we need to do as we're jumping on this conversation today. In the comment section, let us know where you're checking in from. If you want to shout out your ministry, if you want to shout out your pastor, whatever works for you. If you just want to check in and say, hey, we know we have a quite engaged worship and word community, and we would love to have you check in with us. I'm so excited about this conversation today. We're joined by Pastor Kyle Crawford and Pastor Meshach. How do you say your last name?
Dude, Mauia.
Yeah, he said it twice. Okay, he said it twice. Right. So, Mauia, is that it?
Yes,
Is that
sir.
close?
Yes, sir.
Pastor Meshach Mauia with us today, and we're talking about collaboration secrets for virtual ministry. Now, yeah, I just want to dive into this conversation today. And as people are checking in, and we know some of you are watching this live, some of you are watching the replay of this conversation. We are focusing on what it takes to collaborate in virtual ministry spaces. Now, this is not just a conversation for preachers. It's a conversation for anyone who is involved in any type of ministry online, because there's a lot more of us who would do a better job in what we're attempting to do if we stop trying to do it by ourselves. So as we jump into this conversation, let's do some background. Let's do some context. Pastor Meshach, we'll ask you to start. Give us a little understanding of where you serve and what was it like transitioning to that place for ministry?
Sure. I currently serve as the lead pastor of SoSo Seventh-day Adventist Church, as well as Macedonia Seventh-day Adventist Church in Laurel, Mississippi. And I also have the privilege of co-pastoring a virtual church plant, as we call it, of Recharge Worship with my co-pastor, Pastor Kyle Crawford. And, we're just excited just to be on this space with Worship and Word with our brother, Pastor Pierre Quinn, to be able just to be in this space to lend our voice. We don't know it all. We just go in as we are being led by the Spirit. And, that's just a little background as far as where I serve at the moment.
Man, thanks so much for sharing with us, Pastor Kyle. Man, we go back a little bit, to the Great South Central Conference. Give the folks a little bit about your background. You're down there in South Central with Pastor Meshach, but tell them a little bit about your journey to the place where you serve and what does ministry look like for you there.
All right, so Kyle Crawford, as you can tell, I'm from California. Me and Pastor Meshach me and Meshach have the exact same place of origin, California, Southern California to be exact. When I first got into pastoral ministry, I served as a youth pastor at First Seventh-day Adventist Church in Huntsville, Alabama for 3.5 years. And then I transitioned here to Yazoo City, and I know y'all probably never heard of it. I serve in Yazoo City, Mississippi, and Rolling Fork, Mississippi, two churches here. And, as Shaq just said, we both co-pastor Recharge Worship, which is a virtual church plant.
Okay, so thanks for giving us the background and context. And those of you who are just jumping in our conversation today, feel free to check in with us in the comment section. We're having a conversation with Pastor Kyle and Pastor Meshach on collaboration secrets for virtual ministry, for online ministry. Pastor Kyle, I want to go back to you. Talk to us about arriving in the SIP, and especially leaving the context of your previous church as a youth pastor in Huntsville. What was that experience like when you got to your church, your district? What were some of the differences in which you experienced and some of the challenges you faced?
So I just start off just with the immediate differences. Was number one, I've never lived in Mississippi a day in my life before. And when I say that, I mean that living in Mississippi is unlike living anywhere else. It is like a complete culture shock. Just the way of life, how like the poverty level, it's something that I had never seen before. And so that was different. Living in a city, Yazoo City, was completely different. I'm used to, like I said, I grew up in California, lived in Dallas for a little bit, and then came to Oakwood. But I'm used to, even though Huntsville is small, Yazoo is even smaller. So I mean, not only having a Walmart somewhere is completely different. Church wise, it was completely different. I came from a context where we had anywhere from 1600 to 2,000 people per Sabbath that you're preaching in front of. You have a church that has resources. Even though it's still just the same people doing the work, it's more that group is larger. And so coming here to where, it was 60 people, my installation Sabbath, because I counted, and I was,
Yeah,
I
you
was, I
did.
was, I was all right with that. Right. And I think we kind of talked about it with our podcast, about that feeling was like, 60 people. I was like, okay, this is something we could work with. But then the reality came in those next two Sabbaths where it was 20 at one church and it was 8 at the other. You know what I'm saying? And then realizing like I'm the youngest person in my church, which I kind of assumed that was going to happen. But the next youngest was somebody who was 55. And so all those things were different. I'm used to doing youth ministries. I'm used to, being out in the community and doing different things. And like that wasn't a passion here. There was no youth here. And so just having to go out and get certain things, or having to really reassess who I am, what is my passion. And to be quite honest, since we just being real here, like my move here, I went into like a very heavy depression for like the first 7 months when I got here, because I didn't know what the heck I was doing or where I was. You know what I mean? So it was different.
Yeah, man. My dad is from Tylertown, Mississippi, so I got roots in Mississippi.
Yeah.
Went back to visit a couple of years ago. Yeah, it's just a different way of
place.
life, different feel. And I know a lot of people can resonate, at least pastors can resonate a bit about being placed in a district that's different from the context of where you went to school or maybe even served before, wrestling with everything, even the questions of, okay, Lord, did I hear you correctly? When we started down this way.
Listen, all right. So if we just bro, you had called me and you said, hey, listen, I need a youth pastor. And that was before that, they had told me I was moving. And so I literally went back to it and was like, hold on. Soon as they told me I was moving, I said, all right, so I'm gonna call Pierre. I had a list of people I was calling. Holy Spirit was just like, nah, you going there. And then when I got here, it was just like, I might have not heard you exactly, yeah.
Yeah, Pastor Jason Bolgen, we had him on Worship and Word before. He said it's different.
Bolgen was good, bro.
It's different.
Different.
Pastor Meshach. Yeah, Pastor Meshach, tell us, man, contextually, what does ministry look like for you in Mississippi, and how different is it from LA, place of origin? How different was it from school, that piece, and how you navigated, and how in some ways you're still trying to gain your footing there?
No, absolutely, man. I think the major challenge that we had ahead of us coming to Mississippi was the transition from seminary, Andrews University, coming to Soso, Mississippi. The population in Soso, Mississippi is like 600 people. The city that I currently live in Laurel, Mississippi, it's a growing community, but we're still at like 21,000 people in the city. And so not only that, but the cultural differences, it's a culture shock, not only as far as place and location, but also ethnicities. I am first generation Samoan here in America. My parents came over in the 70s, 80s, and they just, they were doing ministry. My dad's a pastor. I'm second generation pastor. I promise you, this is not the place that I wanted to be in life. I told God I'd never be a pastor, but you never tell God what you're going to do. And he has a funny way of doing things. And so, just coming to the South, the journey started in 2009. We left California. All I knew was California. So when we got to Huntsville, it was like 11 o'clock at night. And I tell you, man, there was no lights on that freeway.
Yo, thanks.
And mind you, my wife is pregnant, 7 months pregnant with our first son. And as we're getting off, we're getting stuff together, we get in our rentals to go get our place, just kind of settling in. man, it was so dark, man. We didn't know if we were in the right place because there was just no lights, man. You know, you couldn't see the city of Madison until the day, and so we're just driving, man. It's just a foreign land. It's a culture shock, and we get off a university, and there's finally some life there in Huntsville. Y'all know what I'm talking about when I get off the overpass, and so it's just the culture shock of California to Huntsville, and the culture shock from Huntsville to Andrews actually set us up for the culture shock of Andrews to Mississippi. Because again, we are Polynesians, we're Pacific Islanders, but just being immersed, in the Black community growing up, it's also something different that you have to consider coming to ministry. So when we got our call from South Central, it was just like, man, God, you really want me to cross cultures, even though I'm not, completely aware of the struggle of our Black communities. And so for me, I always try to be empathetic, but also have my ears to the ground to make sure that I am aware culturally that I'm not overstepping my boundaries, if you know what I mean. So for ministry coming to Mississippi, man, once I knew what Southern hospitality was from Huntsville, I just carried it wherever I went, man. So it wasn't odd for me to come to Mississippi, stand in a Walmart, and people talk to me, because that's what they did in Huntsville. Now, I will tell you, and Kyle will also tell you, the moment it first happens to us in Huntsville, we're looking at those jokers like, yo,
Dude,
don't talk to me. We stay in our lane. It's just, we're very focused, and some people kind of take that the wrong way, but God had to just continue to form an idea within us, yo, this is actually what ministry is, like meeting strangers, talking to them, doesn't matter, because that's the culture of the South. So it's like a culture shock in that respect, but then more so, it also aided us in our ministry when we got here to Mississippi, because again, we're exposed a little bit, but once you get to Mississippi, man, let me just tell you, it's on a whole different level of shock, right? And so I always say, though, and Kyle knows it, as long as I have my wife and my kids, it doesn't matter where I go, that's home. And so when President Jones gave the assignment, he said, what do you think about going to So-So, Mississippi, Laura, Mississippi? And we told him, me and my wife laughed, and we said, listen, you can send us to a third world country, and we would be happy, because all we want to do is to be within the will of God. Now, I know that rubs the people the wrong way sometimes, but that's the honest mindset that I have in ministry. Wherever the will of God is, that's where we want to be. And it's been a great marriage. Kyle will tell you, man, I'm very spoiled in my district at the moment. I always tell people to gas up my church, man. I have the greatest hidden secret in South Central Conference is found in So-So and Laurel, Mississippi, man. And my people just take care of me, and I love them to death. And I'm privileged to serve them for this season of my life.
Man. Shout out to all of our colleagues in ministry across the country who are pastoring in hidden places, best kept secret places, and the journey that brings. I know that journey all too well. All too well. Hey, if you're just checking us out here on Worship and Word Conversations, I'm joined by Pastor Kyle and Pastor Meshach, and the meat of our conversation is collaboration secrets for virtual ministry, for online ministry. But we're just getting their backstory as being pastors in Mississippi, and the cultural navigation that they've had to do, and the adjustments and the ups and downs of the ministry space. We invite you to check in with us in the comment section. Even if you're watching the replay of this, feel free to check in with us. No matter what time it is, we'd love to see your interaction in our community. So preachers, let's fast forward. Let's fast forward to the COVID-19 experience, and just kind of the shift that created, and we look at the ministry that both of you co-lead, Recharge Ministries. How did that happen? Was that a response to COVID? Was that something that was already in the works? Was it like, we can't go nowhere, so we might as well just hop online and come together? You're 20, you're 40, my 30, my 20. Let's just bring everybody together. Give us kind of the backstory of this idea of Recharge Worship Ministries.
Yeah, so I mean, basically, it was basically that. I got 5, you got 5. Let's just put it all together. But realistically, I was on the phone with our district pastors, and they were talking about potentially shutting churches down. This is like probably 2 weeks before like we all shut our churches down. You know what I'm saying? That we're hearing about this virus that we don't know how it's going to work. We don't know what's going to happen. We may have to shut down. And so they were giving out tips about how to use Zoom and at the time it's just Zoom. People are just saying, Zoom, all that stuff. And that, we could still have our worship services, all of us individually on Zoom. And so in my mind, that just kind of didn't sound, I was like, that don't make any sense to me. And that's just me. Like, I was like, what for me, I was just like, why are we all doing like, if we all have small churches, why are we all doing different? That doesn't make sense. Like, why do I have 15 people here, 20 people here, 30 people here, when I could just put everybody together, or we could just put everybody together and we could all literally just take turns preaching for the service. And in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, it will help with burnout because we don't know what's going to have to happen. We don't know what's going to happen. Like, dude, we don't have to all preach every single weekend. Like, literally, we could just help each other out, put our people together. We have a bigger audience. We can literally work to like maybe disciple the people a little bit better because we all have time to refresh and chill. And I'm not gonna say that it was. I'm not gonna say it was shot down. But I am gonna say it was shot down. It was, and the idea wasn't recharged at the time. It was literally, I had an idea of just putting together a Facebook page where you would basically you would record your sermon, and you would put your sermon up, and like I would or somebody would post the sermon that Sabbath so that people could come to the page and watch it. Like, that was literally it. You just post it, you record your sermon during the week. Whatever your date is, we posted on that date and people are able to watch it. That was like to the extent of the idea. Got shut down. Then we closed the churches and we were on the phone again and we were talking about, what are people going to do? And people are asking questions about Zoom and not knowing how to, run Zoom and all those things. And can they call in, all that stuff. And people are saying, well, I have Sabbath school over here and we have 60 people on, or I have Sabbath school over here, we have 5 people on. It irked me, man. It didn't make any sense. That doesn't make sense. Why are we doing that? Like, we working backward. We hustling backwards. It makes no sense to me. So again, I just kind of threw it out there because it was bugging me. Like, I was like, we'd get off the call and I would just be talking to my wife and talking her ear off. And she was basically like, yo, if you ain't gonna say nothing, then like, shut up. You know what I'm saying? so I said it again and kind of put it out there, and it got shut down again. And one of the comments was basically like, your people want to hear from you. And it's important that you are in front of your people every single week and that you're, the one and you're the guy and this, that, and the third. They don't want to hear from anybody else. And so we had shut down our churches, my 2 churches. We had a lot of, I have 2 small churches, but everybody was kind of traveling, kind of going to grandkids or getting grandkids. So we took the first week off. Like, we didn't have anything. And I turned on Facebook Sabbath morning and I saw Meshach and his wife singing in his living room, man. And like having church in his living room. And I was just like, I wonder if Shaq would be cool with us partnering. Like, I saw what he was doing. I was like, yo, that's dope. Wonder if we'd be, he'd be cool. So I called him and he was like, let's do it. Like, let's do it. And literally that's how the joint started, bro. Like, it just, because he was saying the same thing. He was like, yo, and I'll let him tell it. But as soon as we talked, we literally had the same mindset. Like, why are we doing this? Don't make any sense.
Yeah. Man, Shaq, I saw, was it last week you and the family was singing in the living room? I was like, they about to shut down the whole internet. They were going in. So talk to us, man. You got the call from Kyle. What was going on in your head? What was happening with the ministry in your district? And why did it seem like this was the right move to make? How did you feel God leading in this way?
Sure. So we already had an online presence as far as Soso was concerned, and so for us to take a week off, it would do more harm than good. So I was just like, "Yo, I'll just set up my living room to a worship space. I'll get my wife and my kids involved. My kids, just come and say a memory verse that they learned throughout the week. It actually allowed us a space to disciple our kids in the process.
Nice.
And so it's just getting them involved if they wanted to be involved. And my kids were like, yeah, let's do it, Dad. So it was fun to do ministry together. And so when we first started, it was just like, honey, let's just put our heart of worship, just put it out there for our church, and whoever comes online will be blessed as well. And what's crazy was when the one that Kyle saw was our very first one, and we had like over 70 views that were live, and then
Yeah,
that video just
yeah,
took off to like
yeah.
it actually went up, like our highest for that day went up to like 102 people. Now notice it was at the very beginning when no one else was doing anything online, right?
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm,
so it was
mm-hmm.
just yo, let's just shoot our shot. Let's put our content, like I got a word, I think, that the Lord has given me, and that's the worst thing, man, is to fumble online, right? But
Listen.
after that, man, it was like God affirming. So when my brother Kyle, I wasn't able to make the meetings, but right after the meeting, Kyle called me, and he's like, Shaq, what do you think about collaboration, bro? I said, man, listen, I'm all with it, man. Like, work smarter, not harder. Like,
Mhm.
that's the reality. But as we came together, man, we started to see different gifts like just come to the table. Like, I am not technologically savvy at all, but Kyle was. Like Kyle is like everything that you see on Recharge right now. He is that dude. Like, let me just tell you, man. And if you guys want my pastor to come and help your stream, you guys gonna have to pay him. But for right now, let's be real, man. He knows the ins and outs, man. And then it's also easy to do ministry, especially because there's just good chemistry between me and Kyle. I ran into
Mhm.
Kyle at Oakwood University when he was just coming back, and so my family knows him really well, man. Every time we travel to California, he would stay in Huntsville. I'd leave the car with him, even the house, man.
Yeah,
Like, yo, it's
yeah.
yours. And so, it's
Mm,
different when you're able to share life and do life together. So that when
yeah.
you actually come to the platform that God is actually pushing you towards, it just
Mhm.
becomes easy. Relationships were already built, and so whatever my brother knows, man. If he needs anything from me, it's automatic, and I know if I need anything from him,
Absolutely,
it's automatic. That's just the way we
absolutely.
roll, man. That's just what the blessing of the Oakwood experience actually gave us. And so, man, when he called, man, it was nothing to think about. It was just say yes, God, and go forward. And from there, man, we just shot our shot, man. That's the
Shot our
model we
shot.
live by.
That has been the motto, bro. That literally has been the motto because I mean, dude, as you said, James Kelly, what's good, bro? My dude, man.
That's
McIntyre's
my
on here
brother right
too,
there.
man.
Yes,
Listen,
sir.
James Kelly is one of the reasons why um I graduated. James Kelly used to come, and it's a sidebar. James Kelly used to always say in the theology department, theology majors are lazy. All we want to do is preach. We're lazy. We don't pass our classes. And he knows it. And I used to always like it would be right at the time where I would just be willing. I'd be like, man, I don't even care what grade I get on this. And then Kelly would just, Kyle, man, you know what's wrong with these? You know what's wrong with the theology majors? We lazy. We lazy. We don't want to do our work. We just want to pass. We just want to preach and pass. That's all we want to do. And I'm like, dang, man. Like God used that dude as like some heavy conviction for me. But just going back to what Shaq was saying, man, it's just like I think both of us had the mindset of, you know, dude, let's just try it. Like it doesn't hurt to try. You know what I'm saying? And I think with both of us, we realized like I mean, the reality is, man, like preaching every single week, it takes a toll on you, man. You know what I'm saying? And so if there's an opportunity for you to not have to do that,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? Like you like, and so that's what I thought the hook would be like, for other people, but it wasn't. But it was with Shaq. And literally, I mean, was I was watching that thing, he had a format. And for the most part at the beginning, we just stuck to that format. And even now, like it's a deconstructed part of that format, but it's that format. And so we literally realized that both of us had pieces that went together. And that's the motto for Recharge is just shoot your shot. Like I'm sure we're going to talk about that stuff later, but
Yeah.
just shoot your shot. Just try it.
So I want to go back a little bit because let's talk about this. This happens a lot. We know in ministry context, we know in training, we know in internships, we know just different opportunities. We have different ideas, and even in our churches, members in our churches who are listening to this, or members in a different church, wherever you may be, you have a ministry idea, but the board doesn't like it, or board doesn't approve of it, or there's no money for it, or the influencers in your local congregation, because every local congregation has it, don't want to lend their time and attention to it, or whatever big name preacher won't collab with you, or whatever it is. What advice can you give Kyle and Shaq about the willingness to keep going without, co-signing from influencers and big people and everyone jumping on board, versus when you first started and like we could all collaborate together and it could be awesome and transformative? How do you keep going, especially in a virtual context where with the vanity metrics, you're going live or your stream or whatever, and you're not getting the thousands of views like Recharge Worship is getting. They're getting 2 or 3. What's the advice that you have for people to keep going when no one jumps on your idea or supports you early on, or even when you start and you're not getting that attention that you think you need?
Shaq, go ahead, bro. I got you. I mean, it doesn't matter. I just feel like I answered the last one first, so whatever. All right,
sure, let's go.
So I think that number one, just believing in yourself, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Believing in yourself enough to just take the shot. Like knowing that, when we say shoot your shot, or shoot or shoot, like that's that's something that we say about NBA players. Like that's what they do. Even if they miss 1,000 shooters shoot, they're going to continue to shoot because they know that they earn their spot to be where they are. They earn the right to be where they are. Right. And so for me, that was something that I had to remind myself, like, okay, but like just because people don't co-sign doesn't mean it's not a good idea. Like it might be a good idea. It just might not be something that I should be doing with them. You know what I'm saying? And I've had to and what's crazy is for me, my background kind of helped me get to that point, because I watched Snell, who was my senior pastor. I watched him do Surge, and the backlash that came from Surge was crazy, and he continued to do it. And I saw that joint work. You know what I'm saying? I saw him in his office when he was getting hate mail. I saw when he, people that he thought were cool were sending him crazy texts and email. Like I was there for that. And I saw him continue to push through because he knew that his idea was going to work. Like he knew he got it from God. Not that it was going to work, but he knew that he got it from God and it had to work. And so when I got here, in this context, one of the things that I noticed was, hey man, youth ministries is my passion, but ain't no youth ministries happening. And as you said, like certain times when you bring things to a board, it gets shot down. Right. And I had to, I think I talked to Damian Chandler gave me some great advice. He said, yo, don't put your passions on the back of the church. Like your church is only going to, you know what I'm saying? It's not going to fulfill everything that you want to do. Yeah. So you got to be willing to get outside the walls and do some things yourself. And so here I had to create my own youth ministry. So I would just go buy pizza from Little Caesars. I bought I got a table in the back of my in the trunk, and I got a chair from Walmart in my trunk. And whenever I felt like, yo, I'm missing youth ministries, I go grab 10 pizzas and go to one of the little projects and just post up. You know what I'm saying? And so I think that helped me say, okay, y'all don't like this. And I'm not gonna lie, like it did discourage me for a while. Like I said, my wife was like, hey, yo, either do something or shut up. Because you just keep talking about this thing over and over again. I hear you, but hey, but finally just saying like, yo, all right, if nobody's going to do it, let me just, worst thing I could do is try, you know what I'm saying? And the worst thing that can happen is it flops, so.
Yeah, let me just add to that. I was listening to a podcast with Roger Hernandez. He had Myron on there, and Myron said something to the effect of the reason why a lot of our goals and ambitions as pastors don't get pushed through is because when God gives it to us, we're allowing people who he didn't give it to vote on it. He said, stop letting people vote on some stuff like that, right? So like that is the mentality that I have. Listen, if God gives it to you, it's your job as a visionary, as a pastor, to put it into work, right? And sometimes we allow what God reveals to us be stopped because we won't work what God gave us. And even to that same effect, Roger Wade, he was our youth director at one point, and he came down to So-So, and we did a Keep It Lit youth revival, man. Like just the youth and young adults hosting it. And when we had lunch, man, I was like, what advice would you give to our young people? And the best advice that he gave, and I keep it in my pocket to this day, is he says, you never need permission to do ministry.
Yeah.
You never need permission to do ministry. So when it comes back to your question, Pierre, the fact that those who are trying to figure out this virtual stream and whatnot, you don't have the audience. The reality is God only made one you.
Yeah.
You don't have to try to be recharged. Don't try to be now. Don't try to be quarantine revival. Shout out to my brothers and sisters who are doing that right now. But the reality is you have to be confident in what God has given you. Even listen, Tuesday talks with Greg Fontes right there. There's content that's there that is straight up fire. And so like we don't have to be anyone else because God called us to be specifically us, right? And so as we're here in this space, like everyone can do something. It's almost like that passage I think in the book of First Kings. It's either you can stay there and die, go back and die, or go forward and try, right? And try while dying. And the reality is, just shoot your shot. Like there's only one you. God purposed you to do great things, but part of not being able to do great things is the insecurities of allowing other people sign off on the vision that God has given you. So there it is. I get off my soapbox.
Listen, I just want to say right quick that Meshach is still basking in the overflow of the sermon that he preached today, which is why he got. I mean, listen, like he ripped today. And you can just tell, like you can tell he's been with the Lord just a little bit.
Yeah. You can tell.
Okay.
My
co-pastor, man, he be gassing it up, man. That's all right, man.
Yeah. So let's talk about that element because Kyle, you leave a context where there are multiple pastors. Meshach, you're coming from the seminary experience where you have some camaraderie there. And you're in a church, you're by yourself, you're doing this thing, place to place, preaching, doing ministry, sidewalk, pizza, youth ministry, whatever you're doing, leading worship with your family. Shaq, what's the value? And we talk about it. We talk about the partnership. Jesus sent people out 2 by 2, and it makes for good preaching. But from your personal experience, what has been the emotional, social, spiritual benefit of working together in this way?
Like if I could just take this, man, like Kyle is one of my favorite preachers, like hands down. I'm not even trying to gas him up, right? So it's easy when you're working with someone that you actually like their preaching, but then also the reality, there's a weight to that too, because if for me, I'm like, I better not flop because my pastor is carrying it. You know what I'm saying? So like it actually drives me to look at text when I'm actually studying now that much harder, because I don't want to let down the kingdom for one. And then I'm like, my brother has been carrying me. I better not flop because this is the reality of what we do. And so like when it comes to learning from each other, I think there's a spirit of humility that both of us bring to the table that is necessary for the growth of both of us. So like there are times like when I shoot a shot, Kyle would do it in such a way like, Shaq, yeah, that's cool, but nah, that's not gonna work. And you have to be willing to accept like what you think is cool, and then also receive the rejection, because at the end of the day, what we're thinking about is the big picture, and the big picture is always the kingdom. And so you can't allow egos to get in the way. Like, man, that was a good idea. It got shut down. But we never do it like that. There's always a way. And so like part of the secret here it is, and we'll give it to you for free, is like every single recharge worship, afterwards, when everyone gets off, we're always going back to the drawing board. What did we do well? What needs to improve? What can we do better for the next time? Again, it's because we don't want to be stagnant in what God has given us, because if we're being stagnant, then we're not being good stewards of what God has gifted us with.
Yeah. And man, I'll just add, when we get to just the personal side of it for me, I mean, obviously, going back, it's made me pay attention to detail more, because I have somebody that is there, you know what I'm saying, that can hold me accountable. I think that, as he's saying that, he learned things from me, I've learned a lot of things from him, man. Like, I consider Meshach to be, like, as far as a pastor, like, with people, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, he's like my number one person, bro. Like, I've literally, I hear how he talks about his members. I hear about how he talks about visiting them and calling them and how he knows them. And it always makes me say, yo, I could be doing way more. Like, I need to do more. You know what I'm saying? It's pushed me to do, because, me and Shaq talk about it all the time. Like, I'm an extrovert, but I'm an introvert. Like, and I'm more of an introvert than an extrovert. And theology has, like, really kind of opened the door to that. Like, being a pastor has made me actually realize, oh snap, I'm actually more of an introvert than I thought. But like, Shaq has shown me, man, like, dude, you win so many battles just by being nice, just hanging out with people. You know what I'm saying? Like, and so like, I've literally become like a better, like, I'm not, the best, but like, I'm a better pastor in a lot of those areas than, than I was. And then, just to be a more personal note, like, I didn't grow up with my father. And so I really look at people who are dads. Like, I will, like, I will study you. You know what I'm saying? Like, Pierre, bro, like, when I used to come preach for you, you be hanging out with your daughters. Like, there's things that I would watch, you know what I'm saying? Because growing up, I never had that. And that, my biggest fear, me and my wife always talk about it, my biggest fear my whole life was becoming the person, like, becoming just like my father. You know what I'm saying? That's something I never want to do. And so when I see people in family mode, men in family mode, I pay attention to that. And so, like, I value the fact that, like, Meshach, a great father, you know what I'm saying? I watch that and I'm taking mental notes about, like, how, so he's with his family. He puts his family here and he puts the church down here. Okay, so he spends time with his wife. So he, you know what I'm saying? Like, those are things, because I don't have those, I didn't grow up with those tools and those things that I equip myself with. But then also, last thing is, like, for me, I think it's literally made, like, our friendship better. Like, we're cool, you know what I'm saying? We're friends, we're bros, but like, doing this has made us like we talk all the time. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we talk all the time. And there's been times where, like, when everything started happening, like, like, not started happening, but when it started flaring up, the killings of Black men and women, like, we would usually meet on Tuesdays. And one of the days, Shaq was just like, hey, I know we got to get to, the plan, but, like, I just want to know how you feel. Like, how do you feel, bro? You know what I'm saying? We talked about that. Like, we didn't even get to the planning. We just sat and talked about that. And he shared some things about his, about the Samoan culture that I've begun, like, oh snap. So, we have a lot of similarities as far as, like, colonialism and things like that. And we just share those things and we grow as men, you know what I'm saying? And as human beings. And so for me, the benefit goes beyond just like, okay, I get a Sabbath off where, oh man, I'm doing, less work, because we're actually doing more work. Like, it's crazy. Like, we're actually doing more work. But like, I literally, like, we went from like friends to like, yo, this is my brother. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's in California, and literally the other day he said, hey, yo, your mom lives 20 minutes away. Does she need anything? You know what I mean? And my mom, like, is she's at risk for COVID because she had breast cancer. And so he, like, dropped her off groceries. You know what I'm saying? Like, those, like, we've literally formed a bond. I don't want to get too, deep into the emotional part, but like, it's just like, for me, it's so much bigger than just, okay, we just preach together,
But I think even in sharing that part, one of the insights, and we're talking about ministry in virtual spaces, the impact of doing ministry with not just someone that like their preaching or their presentation or their singing, but you would actually want to spend time with them outside of that context.
Yeah.
And having watched Recharge Worship several times, you know, watching the authenticity, because we all engage in watching content, but watching the authenticity between you two, it's just got a different feel about it that I think is what goes a long way in drawing drawing people in. I want to ask you though, let's go back to that conversation that was shared maybe in a meeting with district pastors about your people only want to hear from you. How do you navigate that? Because, you know, we're in a virtual space, and you know, honestly, ever since the COVID thing, most of us attend 50 to 60 churches a week.
Yo, I got a member.
Facts.
I have a member that times it. I got a member that times it down, man. She watches Recharge. She watches Sabbath School with Meshach's Sabbath School. She watches Recharge. As soon as Recharge is done, she like times it because she's like, yo, Bird is about to get up like soon as y'all in. So she go to Bird, man, and then she goes to Rubido. It's like it's do. Yeah.
So how do you wrestle with that in terms of not navigating the comparison trap, maybe? You know, knowing that your members are watching other services, other preachers, and how do you deal with that context in the planning for and what you do in Recharge?
I think at the forefront of everything, man, like some preachers, like, and we're all guilty of it. We are so selfish at times, right? But the reality is, like, we always have to keep at the forefront of our minds that we're not building our own brand. We're building the kingdom of God. So, like, when we come together, it's the big picture of how are we impacting the kingdom. So it's kingdom mindset over everything. And I think when
That's
me
good.
and Kyle comes together, you know, Kyle actually has plugs to like all these great preachers that's come on, and I've been taken on the along the ride, and you know, because of that, I've been able to form different relationships. Like even with Pierre, like I when we had Pierre on our podcast, man, I had to apologize because it was my loss that I just came into this relationship, but I just didn't know people because I just don't know that many people. But Kyle's been able to bring me along as his brother. Be like, yo, let's connect with this person, that person, and the other. And then so even to that effect, when we bring preachers on the platform, we know they're gonna rip. And you have to be able to know that at the end of the day, it's not going against you. It's actually you're elevating them because you're elevating the kingdom. And when you elevate the kingdom, everything else, man, like I haven't preached Real Talk for Recharge Worship. Bro, what was it? Since like March or April?
It was
Like,
no, hold on. Wait, let me look at the camera. Let me look at the calendar. It was May. It was May.
June, July. Oh mercy. and you know, so you often get that, Pastor, when are you preaching? And I'm just like, you know what me and Pastor Kyle wanted to do was to bring preachers who would never be able to come to our districts and expose them to some great preaching. I mean, we have Greg Fontes, that Joker rip. We have Jason Bojan on the stream, that Joker rip. Like just throughout, we're exposing our members. Like, just think of that. Like, if we were to bring them individually to our churches, the budget that it would have to take for them to get here, taking care of their honorariums and everything else. But the virtual space has literally created a space for our members to be spoiled, right? And it just, all it took was our relationships with our brothers and sisters in ministry to say, hey, do you mind coming? And then also, let's just be real. When they come, for those who are not taking care of your pastors who are coming, start taking care of them because they're taking time and space.
Please start doing that.
So we even when people come, we take care of them. We won't tell you how much we do because we want you to do more.
Yeah.
We try to take care of our brothers and sisters in ministry because it's an honest belief of ours. Like when you take care of God's servants, God's going to continue to elevate your ministry. And that's what we've seen in the process of not even falling to the comparison traps, like all of that stuff, man. Listen, if you're feeling some type of way, I think you got to check your ego and then check your motive in why you're doing what you're doing.
And just to to add to that, I think that one of the things that I'm blessed to be, co-pastor with Meshach, man, because the thing that Meshach drove was, we got to be authentic. We got to be personable and we got to be authentic. Like throughout, like, I mean, even to this day, he'd be like, all right, man, like, if you ever ask him like, yo, what's dope about Recharge? He'll probably say like our authenticity, like that, because that's his thing. Like, yo, we got to be authentic. So for me, I am a competitive person. Like I'm competitive. So there is a natural comparison that happens with me. Not because I'm trying to, but just like, oh snap, okay, we could do that to get more views, or we could do this to get more views. And as we talk about just shooting things down, there's been some stuff that I was like, hey man, we should just do this. And Shaq be like, okay, but I really think that we should just make sure that we're authentic. You know what I'm saying? That we just retain our authenticity. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, it's been like it's kind of just reminded me like, yo, like make sure, as Dr. Kwesi was saying, Oakwood, keep the main thing. And literally we've seen, because of that, we've seen God open doors that like we never thought would happen to us, like ever. You know what I'm saying? Like if COVID wouldn't have happened, I don't think any of this stuff, like the things that we've been able to do, would have happened. So
yeah. What advice do you have for maybe you pastor in a small church, and your church is on, your members are on that same kind of schedule. They know when everybody's preaching, they're going, and you feel this kind of urge or pull to collaborate with someone else, but you don't know where to start. Maybe you're thinking, well, what I have to offer, I'm not a great preacher or great administrator. I'm terrible with technology, but I feel like I'm being foolish by trying to do this by myself, especially in this particular season. What advice would you have for attempting to reach out or collaborate or even strategize on what a partnership looks like?
I would start off, because we actually just did this. We just did this a couple weeks ago. We got some news we're working on, but we just had to do that, and because we realized that, I think it starts off with just realizing that you by yourself, you have limitations. You know what I'm saying? Like there's certain things you just are not going to be able to do. Like as hard as you try, it's not going to be what somebody else can naturally do. You know what I mean? And I think it takes some introspection to figure out what are you good at. And if you're not just, I mean, for me and Meshach, I think because we started working together, it kind of just showed us what we actually are good at, But I think just realize what you bring to the table, man, and find, and then pray about it. Honestly, like, and I know that sounds like, super spiritual, but like literally, like pray about it. Like pray about who you should partner with, because there's somebody out there. And the crazy part, like me and my boy Austin, we talk about it. Our friend Austin Humphreys, we talk about it all the time. Like it's probably not going to be the person that you think it is going to be.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's probably not going to be that person like that you're saying, oh, I would want to partner with that person. Like it's probably not going to be that. It's probably going to be somebody, as Shaq preached today, that's like right there, that, you know what I'm saying, that can do the things that, like, there's somebody, there's always an Aaron for every Moses. Let's just say that. There's an Aaron for every Moses. You don't have to do ministry by yourself. It absolutely makes no sense to still be doing stuff by yourself when we all online. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like, and so I think that, dude, just look at your skill set, see what you can do well. Look at the streams, see what people are doing well that need what you bring to the table, that could use what you're bringing to the table. And then just, you got to be humble enough to just ask, man, because I promise you, there's people who are burnt out. Like, there's people who are tired of preaching. There's people who are tired of clicking all the buttons and, doing the upfront stuff. There's people who are just tired, man. Yeah. And again, it to me, it's hustling backwards, man. It makes no sense to not be doing team ministry when we don't have a church to go to. Like, we're not confined by a building. So why not partner with somebody? It makes it easier. What's the saying? You know, many hands make the work light or something like that. Yeah, come on, man. Like, yeah. So I would say that just figure out what you're good at, see what people are missing, pray that God reveals a person. There's always an Aaron for a Moses. There's somebody there for you, and then just be humble enough to ask.
My pastor already took care of the whole answer, Pierre. That is it. Like real talk. I mean, I think the biggest piece is the humility aspect. Like, and I think we talked about it on our podcast with you, and it was this great revelation. Is that when you need help, don't be afraid to ask for it. Like, again, knowing your skill set, knowing what you bring to the table, knowing that you're valuable first and foremost, that is going to actually launch you to a space of thinking like, yo, I think I can work well with this person. And listen, let's be honest, when it doesn't work, cut it off and go to something else. There's an aspect of loyalty that actually gets us in trouble. Right? There's an aspect of loyalty that actually gets us in trouble. When it doesn't work, it doesn't work. And it's nothing against the other person. It's just two skill sets that don't match. And so you have to be willing to be mature enough on both ends to say, it's not working. Let's just go back. Let's create something different. Or like, you always got to be in the back of your mind, just reworking the thing that you're working on currently to make it fresh, innovative, and relevant to the times in which we're living in. But again, find someone in your space and don't be afraid, because there's people that you're close to right now, or not even close to. You have relationships with them that literally is going to be in your wheelhouse to raise your hand and say, hey, I see what you're doing. Do you think we can collab? And try it, even for a Sabbath or even a Wednesday night prayer meeting, whatever it may be. That way you can kind of get a feel. Is it going to work or not? And if it doesn't, listen, it was a great collaboration.
Right.
And if so, keep on moving. I think that's a secret too, is continuing to push the envelope, push the incentive of doing ministry together in collaboration in this virtual space.
Yeah, man. And let me just say this. I'm sorry, bro. Like, I think that it's important because like there are people who are only being reached by this style of ministry. You know what I'm saying? Like there's literally people who would never walk through the doors of our church, but they'll watch you on Facebook. They'll watch you on YouTube. And I'm saying that because like literally, I mean, the Quarantine Revival is a perfect example of people who don't normally go to church. Not everybody, but there's a lot of people who don't normally go to church who watch that thing. And at the end, somebody gave their heart to God and they had a baptism. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, even for Recharge Worship, like the way that we knew it was working was when there was a lady who said she gave her heart she rededicated her heart to the Lord, and her husband didn't believe in God, started believing in God. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like she never came to, and she's the daughter of one of my members at my church in Rolling Fork. I've never met that lady in my life. She's never come to the church, but she came to a virtual worship. And so I think that you owe it not only to yourself to, alleviate some of the pressure from you, but dog, like you owe it to God to take advantage of this time, because you and somebody else are going to help save somebody. Yeah. At the end of the day, like that, you're going to help save somebody,
man. Wow. Listen, you started open up a whole little transition. We go for the next hour talking about this. So but I do want to be a faithful steward of the time that's afforded to us. I want to talk a little bit about the growth piece, because, and I know you two have been pushing back on this idea since we started this conversation. But that growth piece, so many of us are comparing our right now with all I got is my phone, and I don't have the podcast mic or the Bluetooth headset, and I'm comparing my now to Recharge Worship's now, and you have been at this for a while, and I'm just wanting to start, but I feel there are many of us who feel like I'm discouraged because what I look like right now is not what they look like right now. How did you two wrestle? I know you've pushed back on it a lot in this conversation, but even for the people who are just jumping on, what's the value of being willing to go on that growth journey? And maybe you don't have all the tools yet, maybe you don't have the blue screen behind you yet, but there is some amazing things that happen like on that growth piece. Because I remember, Kyle,
You remember.
the Apple headphones.
You remember. Hey, yeah. I think that for me, I enjoy the grind, right? So I like, and this is why when Shaq talks about me and technology, I like this is something that I like doing. I like learning how to get better at something. Like I enjoy that. You know what I'm saying? So when you told me about StreamYard, I was like, okay, let me try to learn everything that I can learn about StreamYard. Let me find people who really know how to do it, and let me just watch what they're doing, pull some stuff from them. And every so often we'll sprinkle it in until I realize that I'm good at it. The background, you know what I'm saying? Like I had like just a wall. I think when I preached for you, it was just a wall.
Yeah.
You know, and I wasn't using the ring light or anything like that. I think I just had the light, you know. Dude, I think that everybody, this goes back to something that Pastor JD told me. We talked about it in our podcast whenever it comes out. Listen, man, the sooner you're terrible, the sooner you'll be great. Like the sooner you're willing to look terrible, the sooner you're willing to, you're going to be better. If you never start, you're never going to be terrible. But if you never start, you're never going to be great. And so I think just for anybody that is trying to get content or build content or do whatever, because I mean, literally just in the chat right here, I mean, there's so many people that are doing things and everybody has a different lane. You know what I'm saying? Worship and Word, Tuesday Night Talk, Bulgin, the stuff he's doing on IG and the stuff that he's doing at his church and Recharge Worship here. And quite like we're all doing different things. And even in all of that, there's still room. And I think that's the one thing that you know what I mean? There's still room for something. And there's room for whatever your passion is, because somebody wants to hear it. There's a group of people who need to hear it. But if you never start, and if you compare yourselves, you'll never get to that point that you want to get to. And so I think that, you know, when we talk about the comparison, like Recharge didn't start like this. Recharge wasn't even Recharge. I think I titled it. Meshach had a title, and then I titled it like Worship from Home or something like that. And it just so happened that we put a flyer together, and the person put Recharge on the flyer, and me and Shaq were like, "Yo, that's dope." And we ran with Recharge Worship. Like that's the only reason we have Recharge. Like, you know what I'm saying? So it's not like we just had this mastermind of a thing. It was just, hey, we just want to try it. And we had issues with mics. Like I used to forget that I needed to turn this little thing on down here, and so it would go off. I forget that I gotta put an overlay up before because they're gonna hear me. And I mean, dude, it was terrible. You know what I mean? But like, you learn you learn by doing, and you know, for anybody, you're just gonna learn by doing. So just start.
And I think even to that same effect, you know, you got to start somewhere, and we didn't start where we're at currently. We had to start from humble beginnings, and we're still learning. And like today, if you go back and watch Recharge today, you will see that my brother Kyle put in so much work on our new overlay. Like we spent some time after we got offline just to be able just to celebrate the fact that that background looked dope, right? So again, it's like the little things that I get excited about, but Kyle put a lot of work into that because that's become one of his passions. That he's always been that way. But listen, even doing ministry with him, like for someone who is wondering if there's a space for you, I will just continue to drive the point. There's a space at the table for everyone. Like that, and I think one of the things that often discourages pastors in ministry is thinking that there's a limited space at the table, like real talk, right? When in reality, when you're serving the kingdom of God, it's a kingdom that cannot be accounted for because there's like too much space that people aren't coming to the table. So like, listen, wherever you are in your journey right now, trying to compare it to others, That's the trap of the enemy. You have something to give.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
have something that you're gifted with. You
Yeah.
have purpose and you have power because God's anointed you to do so. You just got to do it. Like at the end of the day, if you don't get anything else out of this whole collaboration secret,
Yeah.
just shoot your shot. Do what God is putting in the front of you. If you don't know where to start with your camera phone. Like real talk. StreamYard works now. Like, and this is what I learned as part of my growth is I can control things from my phone. Like real talk. But I would never, ever get to this place and space if God didn't give me my brother Kyle to bring me along the journey. So again, it's not only partnering in the ministry, it's also making each other stronger in areas of weakness, not only in technology, but also life. Like when you do ministry together, you're doing life together. It's just, you can't separate the two. I never separate the two because, you know, that's just not wise because you can't just do ministry like this the way me and Kyle does it, and then like ignore the fact that he's hurting in different places of his life, vice versa. And when I'm hurting, when I dealt with loss of my auntie recently, she passed away in Detroit. My brother Kyle, what I did for him, he did for me. He created a space, and we were supposed to record. He says, "Nah, bro, let's talk about your auntie." And like in that moment, it was doing more than ministry. We were doing life together, and when you're able to do life together, ministry just comes naturally.
Yeah.
Man, great stuff in our conversation today. I know for those of you who are watching us live, those of you who are watching the replay of this, I got a question that I'm sure people who have been watching or will watch, they have this question too. Man, how can I get a Recharge Worship T-shirt? Like, what's the URL? Like, where am I going?
Here we go.
Type it in.
Here we go. You just gave me. All right, so here's my plug. Here's my promo. All right,
let's go.
Look, we need you to. Hold on. Where am I at? Okay, yeah. All right. So look, we're giving away $100. We're giving away $100, and we're giving away a T-shirt. We're giving away how many T-shirts? 2 T-shirts? 3 T-shirts? Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
Something like that. We're giving away $100 in a T-shirt. Second place gets a T-shirt. Third place gets a T-shirt. If you like our YouTube page, we are trying to build up our followers on YouTube. And so if you subscribe to our YouTube page, you can find it by going to YouTube and just typing in Recharge Worship 20, no spaces, Recharge Worship 20. You'll see a yellow circle with a R with the lightning bolt in the R. Recharge Worship 20. At the end of September, we're gonna pick a person at random, and we're gonna give them that first person we pick gets $100 and they get a T-shirt. The second person gets a T-shirt. The third person gets a T-shirt, and we will be kind of letting you guys know how you can get a T-shirt moving forward. We're working on that. Again, as we talk about just, you know, that there's room for you in ministry. There's room for you in ministry. If there's anybody in here that got a T-shirt making company, there's room for you.
Come on.
You know what I'm saying?
Inbox us,
man.
You gave us the YouTube. Where can we catch up with you on Facebook or other social media?
Facebook the same way. Recharge Worship 20. You can go to our page. Please like the page. Please follow the page. I mean, like, I don't really use Facebook outside of that, but that's where you can find us at, man, for sure. Send us a message. We check those and we'll get back to you. Other than that, Kyle A. Crawford on Facebook, Meshach Mauia
Facebook.
Yeah.
And even Instagram, Twitter, though, you know, I have to tell you, I'm always talking about my Dodgers and Lakers. So if you're not about that business, don't add me. Like at all.
No, we won't be adding you. We won't be adding you, Bishop.
It's only the Lord's anointed. It's only the Lord's anointed.
No, won't be doing that. Hey, let me do one more before I let you go.
Yes, sir.
And I've seen it on you share this on your services. Give us the Cash App, man. Give us the Cash App. If somebody's watching us live, or you're watching a replay of this and you've checked out Recharge Worship, or you haven't yet and you just appreciate the authenticity and hearing about the journey of Pastor Kyle and Pastor Meshach, and you want to contribute to that ministry, give us that Cash App, Doc.
It is the # Recharge Worship. # Recharge Worship. # Recharge Worship. Everything that that people are giving, we use to take care of speakers that come in, but also a portion of it goes to taking care of speakers. But also the other, we're saving because we really want to bless a family, bless some people.
Yeah.
So we don't just want to take the money and hoard it. We want to take the money and actually give it back out. So yeah, recharge. Not hashtag. Money sign. Recharge.
Money sign.
There you go.
Money sign. Recharge worship. Yeah. So Pastor Meshach, Pastor Kyle, thanks so much for hanging out with us on Worship and Word. We know it's been a blessing. We know people who've watched this live have been blessed. I've seen the comments and responses. We know people who will watch the replay and taking notes. And this is going to be a spark, a catalyst for people to find ways to collaborate with someone else. And I want to encourage you. You might not have a setup where you have two great preachers like Meshach and Kyle. Maybe the person you're collaborating with is the tech person and they just want to be behind the scenes and press the buttons and take that weight off your shoulder. Maybe you're collaborating with a graphic designer or a therapist or somebody who just has a different skill set. As was revealed today, pray and ask God to lead you and then ask him for the courage to ask for help. And as Pastor Meshach said, hey, if it's not a good fit, take notes from that, break that thing off and reset because there's space. There's space for your ministry. Remember, Worship and Word on Friday evenings and Worship and Word conversations on Saturday afternoons is not a replacement for anything. It's actually a complement to the conversations you're already having about life and ministry. Pastor Kyle, Pastor Meshach, thanks so much for hanging out with us today.
Appreciate it, bro.
Yes, sir.
All right, y'all. Take care. We'll see you next time.